Right.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's nice. When it suns out, that's all I care about.
Yeah.
We're getting there, right?
I know.
That's the first step.
Yeah. My time hop yesterday was like 9 years ago, and I was like, what happened to the warm weather? It's only 75. And I'm like, what was I thinking? It's 34. I'll take 75 all day.
Two minutes. 2 minutes and counting.
Right.
So you all sat in my exact order I have you written.
Oh, did we really? There we go. That works.
That was even
Yeah.
that was even maybe I will. I'll have to retake it. 1 minute. Welcome to Northwood University's Management and Training Panel. Today we have 4 guests with us today to discuss their company's management and training program. So I hope you all gained some valuable insight from these professionals that are here with us today. We are live streaming as well, so welcome to everybody who is joining us virtually also. So what I want to do is just start with a quick introduction. State your name, the company you're with, your position with the company, and then give us something that you love about working for the company that you're with. So Kelsey, we'll start with you at the end.
Hi, my name is Kelsey Herbst. I'm a regional director for Capital One. I work in their auto finance section of it. The sales team that I manage is over Michigan and Ohio. Something that I absolutely love about Capital One is the culture. It is very much work hard, but also have a lot of fun while doing it. Did I cover all the things you asked?
Yes, I think so. Thank you. And we will move to Kelsey with Cintas next.
Yeah, I'm Kelsey Kaflewski, Market Sales Manager for locations 346 in Midland and 308 in Flint. So I manage a team of new business sales representatives, a 3-year partner with Cintas. And something I love about our organization, we call our employees partners because it takes every single one of us to do a really good job at our own job to make our organization successful.
Awesome. Thank you.
Hi,
Jen.
I'm Jen Lawatch. I'm a Group HR Manager for Enterprise Mobility here in Michigan, supporting the HR, talent acquisition, and talent development teams for the employees here in Michigan. Gosh, what do I love? So many things I love about Enterprise, but really I love the opportunity because everybody gets promoted entirely from within based on performance, and you can change careers within the company without having to switch and go outside.
Thank you. And Nathan.
I'm Nathan Noble. I am a residential sales rep with Sherwin-Williams in the Flint market. So I oversee Flint, Burton, and Owasso. Been doing it for 6 years. And my favorite thing about the company would be they promote within as well. Like Jen said, our last 2 CEOs were both part-timers with the company and worked their way up.
And Nathan is a proud alumni of Northwood as well. So welcome. So I'm going to ask you all a number of questions. We'll randomly answer them as we go along. Then we'll offer questions to the students if you guys have student questions as well. So we'll get started. And Nathan, I'll start with you. What is a management and training program and how does it really benefit students?
So it's a 6 to 8 week program with us. You kind of just learn customer service and sales for the first 6 to 8 weeks. Work with your sales reps and then kind of network with other stores to see how they operate. And then when that's done, we pretty much throw you into a store for 6 to 18 months, depending on your skills. And there you would just learn like leadership skills, inventory management, financial management, how to run a team successfully. And then whenever you're ready, within the 6 to 18 months, you could run a store, if you'd like, or a sales rep, either one.
And Jen, how does that look? with your
Absolutely.
company?
So starting out with enterprise mobility, all of our positions start as a management trainee, and the minimum amount of time will vary sort of based on the geography of where you're starting, because we operate with a very decentralized focus. Typically here in Michigan, we see about 8 to 13 months in the management trainee position. During that time, you might work in 1 to 3 different locations, getting a feel for different communities, different customer bases. And primary focus is customer service and sales, but you're also learning all of the back end, how to build relationships in the community, how to work with our partners to grow the business, as well as employee development and how to be a leader within the business. Typical career path would then move into being an assistant manager and a branch manager within the business, at which point you can start looking at really all of the different opportunities. From that, it could be really going anywhere within any of the brands.
Thank you. And Kelsey Centos.
Yeah, so our management trainee program is a 16-month program. You spend 5 months in each department. So you spend 5 months shadowing the manager of each specific department that you're working in, learning how to run those areas of our business. Upon completion of those prerequisites, you then enter our sales division, where you'll spend some time with the market sales manager. And then upon completion of that rotation, you're then a sales rep on the team for typically about a year. And what's really cool about our position is you're developing your leadership skills while having a full-time salaried position and working hand in hand with leadership.
Thank you. And Kelsey.
So our program is 2 years long. It starts in August. This is actually going to be our first cohort that we've had since Capital One Auto Finance has been around. So we're super excited about that. The first 6 months, or actually the first year, is in Plano, Texas at our headquarters for auto. The first 6 months roughly is going to be spent as a junior underwriter, where you're learning how to underwrite loans that come in from dealerships and working with our universal buying center for that. The second 6 months is going to be working more so with about our remote team, which is where you do both underwriting as well as work as an area sales manager, which those typically are associates that actually are out in the field that visit dealerships every day, that sell not only our finance program, but also our digital prospecting leads that we have. We have all sorts of digital software that we sell to dealers. So that second 6 months is where you're learning to continue to be a junior underwriter, as well as learning the functions of an area sales manager. So the second year, once you get to year 2, that is when you actually could be anywhere in the United States as a junior area sales manager. And that's where you're actually going in every day to go visit dealerships.
Thank you. So what are some of the benefits, or how does that management and training program really benefit the employer? So Kelsey, if you want to start with that.
Yeah, so we have found that when we have been recruiting for roles now, so like currently in my position that I have open, you have to have a college degree, and we require 4 years of history, like employment, that show that you've done sales. We have found so much value in college grads that are fresh out of school, that are really ambitious, especially here at Northwood University, and like the social etiquette here is just bar none. But being able to get right out of the university where you're really anxious to learn and you're wanting to really learn all the different facets of the company, this management and training program gives you a little glimpse of all the different areas. So when you are ready, you know, this is where I want to go and make my focus. You're not locked into a role and kind of forced to be there. If you want to be a manager, a people leader, we have a path for that. If you want to be just a self-contributor, we have a path for that as well. So for us, it's really beneficial because we get you right when you're fresh out of college and you really don't know what you necessarily want to be at the end, but it gives you the opportunity to look at all the different options and then really kind of develop into that. And I will say, like, Capital One really invests in their people and with the coaching and developing. And if you're in the role and you're like, I don't want to do this anymore, my job is to find out where you'd be a great fit within the company. And even if you're like, I want to part ways, we even have a career center that then will help you find a job elsewhere, like outside of the company. So like, it's all about developing.
Thank you. Kelsey?
Yeah, so I would say the way our management trainee program benefits the organization is it allows us to develop partners within our organization and give them those management leadership skills early on in their career. So a lot of our executive level leaders, even local leaders, started out as a management trainee because it allows them to understand the business. We promote all of our leadership from within. So when you start out your career learning different aspects of how the business works, it allows you to not only grow your path, but it allows us to have the next step kind of on the bench when the opportunity presents itself, which will allow our leaders to be more successful early on because they understand how the business operates.
And very, similar that mindset of when you learn a little bit of everything about the business, it helps us because as a business, we know that you know how the pieces interact. And so ultimately, as your career develops, if you go down one route, we know you've had exposure to and know the language and understand what is happening in another aspect of the business. But it also really helps us because oftentimes when we join a company for a career, we have one path in mind. We think that's what we want to do. But then as we go, we realize maybe there's another area that's a fit. And so again, because of the fact that you have exposure to all of this, we have the opportunity as to retain our employees because they can make those moves into a different area without having to leave the company or start over in their career. They can use the experience and the skills that they've had to build on their future within the company.
So similar to all three of them, right? You can do anything in the company you want. After that 6 months of working in a store as the manager in training, you could relocate to be, focus on HR. You can focus on the leadership aspect. We have leadership programs or talent programs you can do where you don't have to stay in the store or do the sales rep aspect. We pretty much train you in the coatings industry. But as you're training, kind of like all three of them mentioned, you can veer off in any path you want. You bring a different perspective to the company. The MTPs is what we call it, Manager Training Program. So that's what I did when I joined. And it's a fast track with Sherwin-Williams. So you're already past the part-time and the full-time position, and you're already one step away from either manager or the sales rep.
Thank you. I know you touched on some of the pieces, but what are key components of an effective management and training program for the students that they can focus on? Nathan, if you want to start.
Ours is pretty much just continuous learning and training. When you start the manager and training program, it's classroom training, whether it's like regional facilities, online learning, and hands-on experience. Every day I'm just taking like voluntary tests to like learn more. If I want to get into epoxy, I'm a residential sales rep. So like I focus on residential houses. But if I want to venture into like the epoxy world or the apartment world, I can do that. There's podcasts that we release just like Northwood does consistently, and tests I can take. I can reach out to my mentor and they can guide me in that path. But just continuous learning. You can, as much as you want to learn, that kind of dictates your path on how far you'd go.
And for us, I think one of the things that's really had developed with our management trainee position is, again, it's going to look a little bit different depending where you are within the company. But here in Michigan, we really have worked to make sure that as you are a management trainee, we're providing learning in multiple different ways. So you do have the majority of it's going to be hands-on learning happening on a daily basis in a branch location, working with your coworkers, your teammates, your managers. But we do supplement that with some classroom training, as well as we have a lot of self-led, self-guided training. So you can move at the pace that's going to work for you. And then because of the fact that you're working with people in so many different areas of the business, you're learning those and you can sort of keep developing relationships and mentorships and networking throughout the entire business as you're a management trainee. So you can, again, help to sort of learn a little bit more about where you see your future while you're still learning about the business.
Yeah, similar to what they said at Cintas, we really pour into the development of the individual that's going through the management trainee program, but we have a mentorship program as well. So each management trainee is partnered with a mentor, and they kind of stick with them through the entire 16-month process, but it allows them to build their brand outside of the four walls that they're working in. We also have summit events that the management trainees attend to builds their brand, again, outside of the four walls, but have interaction with our executive leadership and folks from across the United States that are also doing the management trainee program. And we're investing into their future, right? It's not just the 16 months that we want them to be with our organization. We want them to build a long-term career. And as they continue to go through that program, the better they build their brand outside of the four walls, the better the opportunity that they have for further career within our organization.
At Capital One, being in Plano, Texas, which is outside of Dallas, for those that don't know, that first year, you have nonstop exposure with our executives on the auto side of the industry, which is incredibly valuable as a management and training program. I will say it doesn't matter if you were there on day 1 or if you were there on day 15. If you have an idea and you have a way to better a process, a program, or you just have an idea in general, they are always willing to listen and implement. And like there's nonstop recognition for those that do that. So like they have all sorts of contests that go on throughout the year and all different departments that kind of take your innovation as well as what you're learning. So in this program, it's really neat since you're seeing all the different facets of the auto industry. You're able to kind of take information that you learn from one area and then apply it to another, and then also show a different process that you might be able to better. Where if you come in at Capital One on the regular as a regular hire, you do not get that exposure. So you do not get that exposure to senior leadership right off the bat. That's just kind of if you happen to be in headquarters or not.
Thank you. Great insight. What are the most important skills a student can develop to be successful through the management and training programs? Whoever wants to start.
Yeah, so I would say at Capital One, like problem solving is key, and being really, there might be 1,000 ways to solve a problem, but being able to determine what the best way to solve the problem is something that we find very critical. Time management, we give a lot of rope. So we hope that to be successful, you definitely have to be very well managed. And then third, I would say results focused. We are very much wanting to hit all of our numbers, and we make that a top priority. And that's something that you'll hear about on a daily basis with us. But if you're well managed and you're great at problem solving, it can be easily happening.
Yeah, I would say probably being a team player is one of the biggest components. We are huge on developing a team within the location to hit a common goal. Like Capital One, we're very KPI driven. We all have numbers to hit in some capacity, depending on which department you're in. We work really hard. Our industry isn't glamorous, but it's very rewarding, right? We help business owners prepare for their workday every single day and allow them to run their business in a very efficient, effective manner and provide their customers with the most experience. So we do believe teamwork and then customer service is our top priority as well. And you learn a really good way to navigate both of those throughout your management trainee program.
Very similar skills. I think coming in, we have some core competencies that we look to make sure everyone hired into the management training position has those. And then we're going to work on developing those because people are going to have them at different levels. But as you look at moving through the management training program and being successful within the company, time management will definitely come into play. Leadership is a huge aspect of it because at the end of the day, we are very competitive, but we are looking for competitive people who also want to drive a team and motivate a team. So sales ability, customer service ability, being results oriented, and then certainly just having a great work ethic and being really flexible because you just said, it's not a glamorous industry. Renting cars is not probably why most of us went to college. But at the end of the day, we provide a service that's invaluable to our customers. And as you look beyond just the product of what we have, what we are able to do in our communities and who we are able to help on a day-to-day basis is really impactful.
Yeah, mine would be customer relationships, to sell them, objection handling, leadership skills, definitely time management. There's so many times throughout the day where you feel like you have so much to do, but it's kind of like a delegation thing too, where as an assistant manager after the management and training program, it's all about like delegating, the minute tasks to someone else so that way you can focus on the larger, more important tasks. We do run, on budgets too, so you do have to hit your numbers. So time always plays it's the most important thing for my job.
Thank you. So most of you do offer internship programs as well. How can participating in that internship really help enhance opportunities within management and training programs. Nathan, if you want to start.
Yeah. The internship with Sherwin-Williams, it's like a 3-month program. Then you give the capstone project to the HR executives and the vice president of sales. But when you're done with that, kind of like last year, some of our students, you have the first option to stay on and join the management and training program. So you do get first dibs, and they do ask, like, even if there's not an open position, they still get you in, and you might float around between different stores and learn how the other stores operate. But you get the first choice after the internship. You've already learned everything that the manager in training would learn. So you do have a head start there, but then you also just have the first opportunity to take that role on.
Yeah, ours is definitely sort of accelerates your management trainee program. So when someone is with us as a summer intern, it is a management trainee internship. So it is a lot of the same development in that 3-month period. And so then when someone moves into a management trainee position after graduation, sometimes that's happening even at the end of that summer, right? Maybe they're graduating in August and need their internship to finish. Well, they're already 3 months into their management training position. And if someone doesn't stay on like that and they go back to school, sometimes people are able to work during the year part-time, sort of maintain contact. Other times people sort of go back, focus on school and come in, but at that point they still have sort of the first 3 months done. And so they can jump right into where they would be at month 4 if they'd started, as a management trainee.
Our summer internship is what I think is really cool is it's customizable for the length of time, right? So if you're doing some summer programs and you're not able to start right away, we can work with you to determine what time period works best for your school schedule. We do have a capstone project at the end of the summer that all of the interns work on, our organization at their specific location, and then they present to our executive leadership staff at the end of the summer. Our summer internship or internship throughout winter, whenever you need that, is a condensed version of our management trainee. So you do a couple weeks with each department throughout your capstone project instead of a 16-month rotation. So it gives you kind of an insight as to what our management trainee program would look like. And then depending on location, we are able to offer that you stay on potentially as a part-time employee while you're finishing school if you'd like to. And then we can work with you on transitioning to that management trainee program if that's something you're interested in.
Thank you.
So at Capital One and Auto Finance, we actually don't have an internship program. So the management and training program is our program that we have, SABRE.
Thank you. So you all touched on this a little bit already, but what are some common career paths for students who complete that management and training program? So anything in addition to what you've mentioned?
What did you say? What are some common
Some common career paths.
career paths? Okay, great question. So as I spoke before, we have area sales managers. We have, which those are the associates that are out in the field working with the dealerships. We have underwriters. Those are the associates that decide to say, we call it inside sales, where they work with the dealerships that are in their territory and they do everything from underwriting and kind of solving the problems there. We have senior relationship managers, which that's when you become a people leader. Can be a regional sales manager, which is what I currently am, where I manage a team of area sales managers. So you can do the career path of this, or if you decide, hey, I want to do more of like business and analysis, I want to focus more on revamping Capital One's finance program, you could then go that avenue. Back in 2020, when we came out with our digital tools, because although Capital One is a bank, we are also very much a tech company as well. When we came out with this new software that we now have a career path that is really digitally driven, where you're taking all sorts of web providing tools and you're providing them for dealers. So we have a career path down that where one, you can be support in the beginning and then work your way up in that direction. And then if you decide auto might not be your passion, you could go into card. We have obviously, I'm sure many of you guys know what's in your wallet, where Capital One credit card, we have several different avenues that you can go there. We have small business. There's a ton of different areas that you can go in at Capital One. It's really just what you want to do.
Yeah, at Cintas, upon successful completion of your management trainee program, a lot of our management trainees choose to stay on as a full-time new business sales rep. But you can also, once you complete that rotation, you can become a sales manager, which is what I do. You can go back into our service department and be a service manager. You can go into production and be a production manager. You can go into human resources and be a human resources manager. And then you can also typically take like a service manager or sales manager job, complete that successfully, and then become a general manager of a location.
So our sort of most traditional career path is the assistant manager to branch manager and then area manager, moving on up to ultimately being a general manager or a senior vice president overseeing the rental operations. At the same time, from that branch manager level, you can start looking at other divisions that we have. So we have a car sales division, we have an enterprise truck division, which is going to be a lot more of the business to business sales. You can also start to move into more direct sales routes. We have enterprise fleet management, which is very heavily sales oriented, as well as some of our support or sort of administrative team is what we would call ourselves, but certainly the HR side, so talent acquisition, talent development, HR. We've got risk management, we've got logistics, we've got property development facilities, we've got replacement leisure division that works with the body shops, the dealerships that we do business with, refer business to us. We have individuals who work with our insurance accounts. We have business rental accounts. So it really can vary. I mean, we actually have had people who've gone through the management training program and then moved over into our business management side. That's pretty much the only other career path that you can start not in a management trainees. If we hire you directly in as an accountant, then you can move up through business management. But sometimes someone will come into the management trainee program with an accounting degree, and then as they move up, decide to move over into business management. So it really, it's similar to all of these, it's really what's going to best, fulfill you, where your skills going to be, most utilized. And then that can also change. Like in my career, I spent 10 years in recruiting and then made the move over into the HR side of things and have been in HR for about 8 years now. And that was after starting as a management trainee in rental.
It's so similar to what Jen mentioned. So the most common path for us is assistant manager, then store manager, then sales rep. But if you're willing to relocate, then truly the sky's the limit. You can go to HR, you can go to our accounting, the financial side, the auditor side, because our headquarters is in Cleveland. So that's pretty much where 90% of the jobs are that aren't sales related, like directly store manager or sales rep. But we have so many divisions. Like I take pride in always studying like everything we have to offer in the different divisions and segments we offer. But I probably still only know 10%. Like we line inside of soda cans, right? That's a whole separate branch of ours. So the most common is definitely, if you're staying local, would be run a store and then be a sales rep. Otherwise, if you're willing to relocate, it would be sales rep, sales manager, city manager, then district manager. And that's usually the route to like go to the VP of sales, most commonly.
Thank you. What are the biggest challenges students face in a management and training program? Nathan, if you want to start with that one.
Yeah, probably just the worrying of when you get to be the assistant manager and you're working with your manager to run the store. I'd say that the biggest challenge for most people is like we give you a store, so you're running a $1 million to $3 million store, and we back you, we give you the tools that are needed. But it's just up to you on trying to, exceed those expectations. And so many people get the worry that when they get in there, they're going to fail, But we do line everyone up with the tools and the training throughout. But so many people think like, oh, I don't want to run my own store. I'm worried about what will happen. But once they get past that and realize it's very similar to the assistant manager position, the biggest obstacle is just staying up on the training.
I think as a management trainee, it really is going to really vary on the individual because everyone's going to come in with a different level of skill set. And so during that time, you're comparing yourself to people that you're competing with, but you all have a different background and different skill set that you're bringing to it. And you're working to all sort of leverage that to the same level to start getting promoted. So it does vary. Some people really struggle with the sales aspect. Some struggle more with the time management. Some struggle with, trying to balance everything that happens on a day-to-day basis. But the cool thing is because you are sort of doing all of it, and we've had so many people go through that experience, there's usually someone who's had a similar struggle. And so our goal is to sort of figure out, okay, what is your challenge right now? And let's partner you with or find a way to help you get through that, because we know that someone's probably had a similar challenge. And then, I think similar to what Nathan just said, like that ability to trust yourself and that you're ready for the next level. I think as people start to complete the management training program and start looking at the next level in their career, it feels a little intimidating, a little daunting. But to trust that, you're ready for this, you've got this, like we've developed you. You're not going to know it all. It's one day you're a management trainee and the next day you're an assistant manager. We don't expect that you learned and became a completely different person overnight, right? Like you're going to then start a new cycle of learning in that next position.
Yeah, similar to what they said, I would say probably one of the biggest struggles is not only that trusting that we're not going to let you fail, right? We have your mentors are typically prior management trainees. I would say the biggest culture shock in our industry is it's not a glamorous industry, and we truly believe by immersing you in the jobs alongside the partners, so that you can lead by learning what they're doing. So you're running route on the truck with a service representative. You're in the wash alley, helping those partners wash the towels, wash the uniforms. You're weighing out loads. You're going out with the service manager to talk with a customer that maybe has some questions on their agreement, right? So we think it's really important to learn to lead by working side by side with the partners that someday you may be leading. And sometimes it's a little bit of a culture shock because some people think they're going to come in and have a very glamorous desk job right from the get-go, because management trainees are really sought after in our organization, but you're out, on the plant floor doing some dirty jobs. And sometimes that's a little bit of a shock, but it's very rewarding when you can work arm in arm with the partners, and it allows them to earn a level of respect for you as an individual that they may not have if you just show up in a nice suit and start to lead them, right? They know that you know how to do the job and understand what they're doing because you've worked next to them.
I would say the biggest challenge that you'll see at Capital One, especially in the first 90 days, is you feel like you're drinking from a fire hose with all of the information that we provide you with. Our finance program alone, I always joke, like you have to take a Mensa test in order to understand it, because it's just so minute and there's so much information that goes to it that it does come across very overwhelming. And just reminding yourself that like every single person that steps foot on campus has been in that same position and has felt that same way. And then all of a sudden it's like, I get it. All of a sudden everything clicks together. I also like to say, like, we are not curing cancer, so it's just a car deal. Like, you are still going to survive the end of the day. Nothing can't be fixed. Sometimes I regret saying that though, but there's always a solution. So I'd say those are the big challenges. And then as you get further into the management and training program, is we really teach you how to have some tough conversations. Sometimes you have to give dealers not the best news, and you have to talk about some big things. But we're there to develop you, to make you feel comfortable in it. We do a ton of scrimmaging at Capital One, where if you have to go in and talk to a dealership or talk to somebody and it's going to be a tough conversation, you will be practicing before you even step foot in that dealership. So you feel very confident in what you're saying. And like the end goal is to always leave where you both feel like it was a mutual, like a good decision, not I'm coming in to make them upset. Like, you want everyone, all parties, to be happy. So I would say those are the biggest challenges, but first and foremost, drinking from a fire hose, it is a real thing.
Thank you. And I have one more question before we open it up for student questions. So Kelsey, I'll start with you. What advice would you give a student that's considering participating in that management and training program?
Yeah, so I think this is the coolest thing. Honestly, I wish they had this when I was in college. I actually did a version of this when Chrysler Financial was around. Like, coming into Capital One in this type of environment and having the access to the executives is, I mean, the sky is the limit with that alone. Because if you build a solid brand with some of the executives that are in Plano, like, they don't forget that. Your first impression when you walk in and when they see like your hustle and your dedication to something, they don't forget. And later on, when they're looking for somebody, or they're looking for somebody to join conversations for changing stuff, or they want input, they are going to remember you. And the fact that you have the access, like, out of the 1,000 applicants that applied for the cohort in August, there's 6. So that means there's 6 individuals that get access that anybody else hired at Capital One are not going to have that same access to. So for me, like, I wish that they had this when I first started at Capital One, because I mean, it is an awesome opportunity. And the fact that like Sanjeev Yajnik, who's in charge of our financial services, which auto finance falls under him, like this is his baby. This is like what he wants to see just be incredibly successful. And to have access to him, like that is not, doesn't happen to everybody at Capital One.
My advice to someone who is considering the management trainee program at Cintas would be to have an open mind going in, but know that that's the start of a career within a Fortune 500 organization. So a lot of our executive leadership started out as a management trainee. You can work with inside of Cintas, learn the business at a local level and get paid to learn and develop your brand, which isn't an opportunity that every organization offers. And it really gives you an avenue to, when you have the management trainee on your resume, you get to decide where you want to take your career. And that's something that I wish was, I would have known about when I was a little younger, because it's a great opportunity and it allows you to develop skills at a fast pace that you may not get within an organization, and really decide what you want to do with your career, because we do promote from within and find that that's really, really important to give you guys the opportunity to choose your path.
Yeah, I think the aspect of not just looking at it as a management training program, but looking at it as a career is key, because really that's any company that's investing in a new employee as a management trainee is building future leadership. But that also means that typically, we're asking a little bit more than you might experience in another company in your first year, and it's going to be challenging at times. And sometimes you're going to need to really sort of show the grit and stick with it when it might feel like, my gosh, like I can't do this. But to know that like when you stick through that, you're going to actually have a lot more opportunity than if you start over again somewhere else and start over again. And so I think that really looking at, can you, whether it's glamorous or not, because again, renting cars, but can you see yourself, looking at the company culture, and can you see yourself down the road 2, 3 years, 5 years, being successful there? Because that's going to be more important than like, does, month 6 of the management trainee program sound like awesome and fantastic? Because it may not, but the long term is worth it.
Yeah, similar to Jen, it's a wonderful company. It's a little daunting at first, but networking is the most important thing I've seen. We do a sales meeting every January in Florida, and it's probably 20 to 30,000 people, employees, and there's probably 300 to 500 I know, and I just know that they'll be my boss someday. So I try to stay in touch with them, or I can be their boss. I am selling paint, and I never thought about going into paint. And this was the last company at the Northwood Career Fair in 2019 that, someone's like, go talk to Sherwin-Williams. And I'm like, I don't even know what they do, but it's a paint company, right? And I wouldn't sell paint anywhere else. I wouldn't hope to ever work for another company. I am currently, like, anywhere I want to move, if they'll take me, I can apply for that, whether it's international or in the United States. Just keep learning, keep talking to people. Just every single person, our district runs from Port Huron to Traverse City. So like I talk to all those guys consistently just to see like where they're looking for, where they're planning on moving. Talk to the VP of sales all the time to see what his career path is for me. So just the sky's the limit with Sherwin-Williams.
Thank you all for the great advice and input. We're going to open it up for student questions. So Dr. Poole has the microphone. So just raise your hand if you have a question and he will come find you. Or he'll pick on you.
Don't be shy. I would like to say out of the 1,000 applicants at Capital One and the 6 that we chose, 2 of them are right here from Northwood.
Awesome.
So one question that I had is like the idea of different leadership styles kind of bounces around a lot, and I've heard it a lot in my classes. So for individually, I guess for all of you, do you feel as though there was a mindset shift or a habit that you developed that kind of pushed your leadership style into the direction that it is now?
Yeah, so the way that I was raised, like my grandpa always said, you never ask somebody to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. So I have found as a people leader, like I am very much like in the trenches with my team. I am never going to ask them to go do something that I wouldn't willingly go do. And that is 100% my leadership style. If they are successful, then I am successful. It is not about me, it is about them. And making sure that like I give them all of the resources that they can possibly need to be successful. And if like I always say, like if you need me to come and help somewhere, you call me and I will always show up and be there. So that's been my biggest shift. Now you don't see that everywhere, right? And like even at Capital One, everyone doesn't have the same philosophy. But I find that like I am rated on like it's called an all associate score, where the employees are able to literally rate what your manager is on all different aspects of it. And I've been successful on those scores because of being able to like lead by example, but also in the trenches with them.
Yeah, I would say very similar leadership style that I was also raised on. Don't ask somebody to do something that you aren't willing to do. But I think it's important as a leader also to recognize that you don't know everything. Even though you're in a leadership position, there are things that my sales reps have ran into that maybe I didn't run into in the field and haven't ran into. So I think it's important because you can learn from your team. And you can learn from the individuals around you. So I try to constantly surround myself with people from other departments that are in leadership roles, ask questions and learn, because that will make me a better leader, which will also allow me to develop my reps better. And ultimately, if they're winning, I'm winning. So I will ask them questions. I will get in and I will sell right next to them. I'm in the car with them twice a week. Sometimes more than that. And I'm cold calling and door knocking just like they are. Right. And I think it's also important as a leader to show them that you know how to do it. Right. If you've done the job before, they're going to trust you a little bit more if they see you get told no. Right. If they see somebody throw an objection at you and you are able to handle it, they're going to trust you internally a little bit more than if you're just, hey, go sell this. Right. Because they see, oh, she gets told no too. Right. And she doesn't know everything. So I think it's really important to kind of take the ego hat off and work hand in hand with them.
But it's even better when they say yes.
Yeah. Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Show me still got it.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Yep.
I think very similar that aspect. I mean, but again, I think when you start with the manager training program, like that's part of the aspect of learning the business is that you're not going to do things and anyone you're leading, you've been in whatever role they're in. That changes a little bit, with us as you do start to move up into higher levels of leadership, because you might take over a team that you haven't experienced that. And it definitely takes, I think for myself, I've had some experience where I had to really step back and say, like, I don't know this. Like, you need to teach me now. And like, I have a ton that I can bring to the table as your leader here, but some of this technical or whatever you're going to teach me so that we can be stronger together and like actually move this forward. But the other thing is we've all taken Gallup assessments. And so we do talk about like, what are our strengths? And we look to leverage ourselves. Like one of the girls on my team is a complete opposite of me. And we know that works really, really well because I can say something, come up with an idea, and she's going to run with it and execute it. And so knowing what your strengths are and what the strengths are of your team and how to work together, because you're not always going to have all the answers, or you might not be the best one for something.
Out of the 4 stores that I covered, 2 of my stores have managers that have already been sales reps in that sales rep position, and they've been with the company 20 to 30 years each. So me coming on as like a first-time sales rep is pretty daunting. Like, these 2 guys are going to think I'm just horrible, or they're going to ridicule me, right? But we've taught each other so much. Every day we're challenging each other on different ideas that I might bring to them, and vice versa. I get to expense off like any sales book, that would help me. So there's so many times where, like in my job, you're getting rejection, or objections too. So trying to perfect that, and when you have that customer that you maybe called for a year, and they've never answered or never responded, and then they do, and they make that purchase, it's like, wow, I finally did this. I mean, it took a year, but something like that has motivated me, and you'll see it in the stores too, in that manager training program, when you're just calling someone every month, they shop with you, right? But they just don't answer your call. So you try to get creative on, how they'll call you back. And when you get a couple of those wins, they just keep coming after that.
Thank you.
Making you work.
Yeah, I was just wondering about you guys' specific career paths. And did you start at the same company you're working at now, or did you kind of like switch paths a couple times, or did you just like graduate up into the company?
I'm going to give you the Cliff Notes version. So when I graduated from KU, there was a class was basically, I was 1 credit short. So I did a mock interview class and ended up getting hired with Chrysler Financial during my mock interview. So kind of similar to this. And when I got hired onto them, that was like before 08, 09, when everything just kind of went poorly. And they ended up going out of business. So I was like, I want out of auto. But I had a whole history of learning how the auto industry worked on the finance side of things. So I got out of it, worked in healthcare for a little bit. And then my husband, who works for a competitor, was like, you should probably get back into auto. So Capital One was hiring in California. They were opening up a new buying center there. So I applied and I actually got hired on as an underwriter there. I was an underwriter for a few years. Then I became a senior underwriter. So I managed Southern California's buying team. And then from there, they asked me, hey, would you be interested in moving to Michigan? We have a regional sales manager. Now, the unique thing for me is I was never an area sales manager. So I manage a group of 10 individuals that I've never done their job. But because I've had the background and like asked so many questions, and when we've had associates that might be out on leave or something, I've gone out and done their role. I was easily able to transition to that position. So it's really just kind of like what you put into it, right? And then being very open about what you want for your opportunities to be. And like I always spoke with my manager about saying, hey, this is something that I'm interested in, or these are the opportunities that I would love to be presented, and then just being open to those opportunities.
My career path has not always been at Cintas. I started out as an insurance agent, property, casualty, life and health, and crop insurance. Sold that for almost 10 years. Moved into medical and worked in healthcare during COVID and was in sales, which made it a little unique. Decided that was probably not the best idea. During COVID, there was a lot of restrictions, and saw a posting on Indeed actually for a sales rep to sell pants and toilet paper. And I thought that was unique and almost too good to be true. Took the interview, was hired here in Midland as a sales rep in training, completed my sales rep in training, which is a 13-week program, was given a territory, which was the Midland market, as a uniform rep. Sold for less than a year, was promoted to captain, and then was asked to apply as a sales manager job. And I've been doing that for 2 years. So I've been at Cintas for 3. But it's been a lot of fun and had promotion within that 3 years.
Actually, I did start my career with Enterprise, and it was my first job out of school. It was honestly like not something I ever thought I would do. It was also probably one of the last companies I talked to. I, went into it because I knew I needed more sales experience. I'd studied HR, but I wanted to go into sales. And so I joined Enterprise for the sales, thinking within a couple of years, I'd go do more glamorous sales. And then moved very quickly through the management training program, got promoted, and then moved over into recruiting. As I mentioned before, I spent about 10 years recruiting, which for me was a perfect blend of like still being in a sales environment, but also like getting to start doing a little bit of the HR. And it also ticked a lot of the boxes of what I was thinking of or wanting in a sales position. At that point, I was covering sort of the greater Michigan territory, so all of Michigan outside of Metro Detroit. So I actually used to recruit here all the time. And then took a move over, got promoted to generalist manager. So I moved into like just the true HR side of things. Was doing that again for the greater Michigan territory. Got promoted from there to Ottawa, Ontario, which I know most people probably wouldn't think that's a promotion, but it actually was. It went from running a region to running a group, which is the next level up in our structure. So my family and I moved to Ottawa in 2017. We spent 2 years there, then had an opportunity to get promoted to Indianapolis, and I ran the Indiana team for about 2 years, and had the opportunity back in 2021 to come back to Michigan. So moved into the Metro Detroit area and now supporting the entire state of Michigan.
I actually started in the restaurant business, serving for 14 years, did run as a manager and assistant manager at some of those restaurants. But then I came to the career fair, used my customer service skills at there, got hired at the career fair. Because all I do now is talk to contractors, but that's all you do in a restaurant is talk to tables, as a server. And I still did that for a while when I started at Sherwin-Williams just to make sure it acclimated properly. Then I ran 3 stores at Sherwin-Williams as a manager, and then became a sales rep 2 years ago.
Thank you.
As managers and leaders, what are your guys' best tips for motivating and encouraging like employees and people under you?
Yeah, great question. I will say, for me, I am very much about like morale and engagement. And I could tell you so many things about each one of the individuals on my team because I truly care. And I think them knowing that I care and like how much I invest in them, like they want, like they're constantly like, we want to make you proud, Kelsey. And I like that in turn helps motivate them. But I will say like, our industry, the industry that I work in is like very competitive and very results driven. So like we're constantly talking about numbers, but like we also have like the friendly jabs and like kind of like poke the bear a little bit to kind of get other people motivated. And it really works well on my team. But like I'll say like if you don't have the work ethic instilled in you, it's definitely going to be a struggle, right? Like there's only, we always say like, is it skill or will? Like, do you have the will to want to be motivated? And if you do, I can help you all day long. But Capital One is all about change. And like there is a constant change. So it's very easy to be like, okay, here's the next initiative, go. And then it's like you never get bored because by the time you've completed the first initiative, you're already on to the next one.
I would say that that's probably one of the biggest challenges as a leader, in my opinion, is figuring out how the people on your team are motivated. Not everybody is motivated and driven by the same thing. So one person on your team may be driven by dollars, right? They want to see the commission. They want to see the bonuses when it comes to sales. They want to see just, they're there to make all the money that they can. There are other people that are motivated by the awards and the accolades and the recognition, right? And they don't necessarily care about the dollars, but when they're achieving those awards and reaching those different goals, the dollars usually come in as a secondary result of what they're trying to achieve. So I think it's important to really learn the people on your team because I have to lead certain individuals a lot different than I lead some people on my team. I have a gentleman on my team actually that played baseball here, right? And he's very results driven, right? Because in a sport, it's very easy to measure your success. You either win or you lose. You either have the most runs or you don't. So it's very easy to lead him because we can associate his inputs with the output, right? His inputs in the field result in the output on his volume sold. There's other people on my team that just want the recognition, right? So you have to learn how each individual is motivated and change your leadership for each individual because you may show them the number and they know they have to hit it, but that doesn't motivate them, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think that knowing how to motivate people is the biggest thing. And then also just being genuine about who you are as a leader, right? That you do truly care about them. And if you don't truly care about them, like you need to stop and look in the mirror before you go lead a team. Because at the end of the day, like their success has to come first. You're never going to be successful if your team isn't succeeding. But then you have to know how to get through to them. And you also have to, you have to be willing to have the tough conversations and hold people accountable. Because at the end of the day, like, you have to know what their goals are and like you're there to help them reach those goals. But also you've got to be the one that's willing to call them on it and say like, you are not doing what you're capable of doing. Like why, let's stop, let's have a conversation. Why is that? What's happening? And let's get you back on track.
I'm still learning how, the people I manage are motivated. Some are motivated by me bringing in a new contractor, that will bring them sales and help them win the trip and the bonuses. Then others are motivated by an Amazon gift or lunch. I'm really truly learning still, and I only have the 4 managers and then maybe 20 employees under them. But it changes week by week. What might have motivated them last week might not motivate them this week. They're like, oh, we already did the lunch thing, and it really takes a lot of conversations to help build them up, motivate them, show them like the prize at the end and where they could be, if they keep pushing. But I really am still learning, how to properly motivate everyone because everyone's completely different.
All right. Any more questions? Zach has another question.
I have 2 nieces. Pretty soon maybe only one.
So Kelsey, I know you talked about like leading through COVID and obviously that affected all industries, but do you think that any of you have had like a time where you led through a major challenge, maybe industry specific or team specific or company specific, I could say? And what were kind of the outcomes of that? How did you make it through it? Kind of that kind of thing.
Yeah, so was it 2021? We had quite a big layoff in auto, which it had been over a decade since then. And that was a big change to that was huge to lead through, because the way that our algorithm kind of was that we determined who was being laid off, like managers had no say in it. And it went like, there were several factors that put into it. So it was really difficult having to like motivate the team and like continue on when you lose a couple members from your team and you had no idea it was going to happen. But it was such an anomaly that it even happened in the first place because of everything that had happened with COVID. So I think like that was a big challenge, but it also brought the team together to kind of like rally together and move forward. But that was a big change. Now, I will say, I don't know how familiar you guys are with auto finance, but like right now, when dealers obviously are submitting applications to us, and we're trying to win the loan, so we're trying to finance that customer that's buying a vehicle. Historically, as a Capital One sales rep and as like a relationship manager, that has always been their job. That has been their focus. Well, in 2020, when COVID hit, we actually rolled out our digital tool, which we are now asking our associates to learn something totally different from auto financing. And not everybody is tech savvy that came, and they can tell you everything about finance, but when you ask them to work different types of like web tools, they like trying to manage that change and change what they're learning, like that is huge. Some people were struggling to even turn on their laptop, and you're trying to tell them to go sell some of these digital products. So like that was a massive challenge to work through, but we've made it. And now we're on year 5 of it, and it's pretty incredible to see it. But I mean, it took a lot of like blood, sweat, tears to get us through those 2 changes.
Yeah, I would say we've had some minor changes. Nothing recently has been like earth shattering. It's just what we see is our sales reps, specifically from the sales perspective, are very routine driven, right? On Mondays, we do certain things, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and we've recently done a technology update where we've changed computers. And so now their software works a little differently. And that was challenging for the existing reps, where the new reps, that's all they know, right? So it's normal for them. We've also had some recent changes in the products and services that they're compensated on. So getting them back into the routine of, going to, without getting into the weeds, going back to customers where maybe that wasn't as much of a focus in that time frame, and just trying to build some different routines. What I would say is the biggest change, because there's always something moving. We call this the Cintas change, right? Or like if anything's consistent around here, it's change. And just getting as a leader, it may be really frustrating, the change, because maybe you don't agree with it, maybe you do, but you can't let them see the frustration. It's how you present the change, regardless of if it's positive or negative, to the team, and how you react is how they're going to react. So I think that that's probably the thing I've learned over just the small changes. If I get frustrated, so are they. But if I present it in a positive manner and show them how it's going to benefit them in their career, they're a little bit more open to changing their routine or building that in.
Change and like change management is probably one of my favorite things about my job. I mentioned, I've moved to Indiana, or to Ottawa. I was there for 2 years, and Indiana for 2 years. And so then when I loved the fact that it was sort of a reset every 2 years. And so when I was here more than 2 years, I'm like, and then thankfully my boss got promoted and I got a new general manager. So it's like, all right, I get change again. But I think that's one of the things that really, it forces you to like step back and reassess what you're doing, right? And are you, where are your opportunities, where are your holes? I also, had the opportunity to lead a team through COVID, which, I think from any business perspective was something that we just had never experienced before. And that also, I think leading an HR team during that, and some of the conversations we had to have and the experiences they had, like that opened up my eyes to some of the personal aspect, like, because we often try to talk about like separating work and personal, but when you go from coming into the office and working with the team every day to now working from home and having to deliver some of those messages, we really had to learn how to take care of each other and take care of ourselves. And so that's also, I think, as we face change, like I always really like, challenge our leadership team to sort of stop and pause and like, how are we thinking about this and rolling it out in a way that we're explaining to people why we're doing it, and we're thinking about how we're going to coach people through it so that it's not just to change the world tomorrow and not explain and help them through it.
Change happens all the time. We're kind of a training district, Northern Michigan for Sherwin-Williams. So we see a lot of different district managers come through every couple of years, and then they run bigger metro areas. We also have new like lead generation software that we use. And when that was rolled out, a lot of bugs. It takes a lot more time. What might have taken me 2 minutes to log, now it might be 10. And then it times out when I'm there. So you'll have the whole team, and maybe the leaders too that are like, this is horrible, we're wasting time, we're not as efficient. But you really, it is what it is, right? Like, that's the software we're using, we're not going to revert to the old one. So you kind of be like, I think it's not that bad, right? And I know people are like, why are you saying that? It's awful. But you just have to try to motivate them somehow, right? Like, we're stuck with this. This is how it's going to be. So you just make it work, and you work through the bugs and make the best of it. But that's probably been the biggest challenge besides COVID. But I try not to think about that era and running a store.
All right, well, thank you. We're nearing the end of our time today. So thank you to our panelists for joining us today. Just a couple of takeaways that I got from the conversation today. Dr. Poole and I are teaching professional development classes through the leadership courses right now, and we talked about professional development this week. And Nathan, I think you had said taking some of that on yourself. Maybe the company isn't offering that, but you take it upon yourself for that professional development. So that was a takeaway that I took from that. And also company culture, looking for that company that fits what you're looking for and what you value is key when making that decision, and having a company that will help you find your path within their company were some key takeaways I took. So thank you for your time, your valuable insight today. I know, it was beneficial to all of us. So thank you.
Thank you.